It was incredible from day one, and it's actually something that I've reflected on a couple interviews that I've done recently, and it all started with Brandon.
Buddy, this is Eric Vierthaler of Vierthaler Studios back again for the next episode of Sit Down by the Fire. I'm here with my co-host Ty of Junebug Films, and we're here with our next special guests. Please introduce yourselves, and ladies first.
Hi there, I'm Tasha Gates from Montana, and I play Rebecca in Brandon Smith's Somewhere in Montana.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I'm Matt Drago. I play Fabian Verdugo in Somewhere in Montana. I'm excited to talk to you guys today.
Thank you, Matt, so much. And now,
and I'm Brandon Smith.
Finale.
Yeah, and I'm the writer and director of Somewhere in Montana.
Thank you.
Ty's not here.
So anyways, so Brandon, you were the one who wrote the script, and you also helmed the project. So what exactly inspired you to make this film?
Yeah, and by helmed, let's say I directed. You know, that's about it. I know I have producer next to my name too, but really me producing was more of bringing Eden and Joe on board. So it's interesting. I was actually at a 4-H event in Ronan, Montana, and I was talking to this guy. He was a rancher in northwest Montana, and I was looking at this man's hands as he was talking to me, and he had calluses on his hands in just the right places. You just see this. I mean, they're just a rough man's hands. Like, this man worked for his for everything he had, his family, right. Whatever they ate, where they lived, everything came from this man's hands directly. And I was just kind of fascinated by that. So I started creating him as a character in my mind. And as I created him as a character, I thought, well, as an interesting character study, it would be interesting to create somebody who's his opposite. And then so I created a character who was his opposite. And then I thought, well, with the way the world is today, where you have to agree with everybody 100% all the time, or for some reason you have to hate them, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I put them in an impossible situation, and then worked out a way for them to get out of it. And actually, the funny thing is I wasn't even going to make this movie. I actually pitched it at a pitch competition, which I lost. And one person came up to me afterward and says, "That's a really good idea." And I said, "Oh, okay, maybe it's worth pursuing." And we just kept going.
Nice. And then after that, I guess that you can say the rest was history, right?
Yeah, after we brought, well, it was a layering process, right? Because then Eden got involved and Joe got involved, and as actors came in, and then we had a huge boost when Graham came in. I mean, when we originally envisioned this, it was going to be a small, we were even talking about, well, let's just get some DSLRs and a bunch of friends, and we'll shoot this on the weekends. And and it progressed into, no, we've got Graham McTavish all of a sudden. Oh man, okay, we can do something here. And then it ballooned, and Michelle came on, and people like Matt and Tasha had been on for a year at that point. And so it was quite a journey.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah. And so speaking about the whole thing of getting McTavish on, so was it you that got a hold of his agent, or how exactly did that work?
No, it was actually my casting director. She got a hold of him. But it was one of those things where she's known him for decades.
Right.
They've been friends for a long, long time, and it was really awesome. The guy has been a 100% supporter every step of the way. I remember she and I were going through a list of people, and she brought up all these great people like Bruce Davison and all these other people who are really good actors, and you're like, oh, that'd be cool, that'd be cool, that'd be cool. And then she brought up Graham McTavish's name. She says, well, I do really know Graham well. And she said, Graham McTavish. And I said, the Saint of Killers, because, from Preacher.
The one.
I mean, yeah, that guy did more acting with his eyes. Yeah. He did more acting with his eyes in that show than most actors do in an entire series, in one episode. And I said, Ricky, if you can just get him to read the first 11 pages of my script, I will worship you as a living goddess for the rest of my life.
There you go.
And a week later, he sent her a text back and said, I want to do the film in Montana. Make it happen.
Nice.
And that was it.
Amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's interesting, Montana's film history. I mean, what you guys have, I think Gary Cooper's from Montana.
Yeah. There's a lot of famous people from Montana.
And
Yep.
crap, what's her name? Here I am, classic movie puff, and I'm drawing a blank of the damn name.
Myrtle Loy.
Yes.
Myrtle Loy, yeah.
I believe one of the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers even is from Montana.
Oh,
I
wow.
think it was the Black Ranger or the Blue Ranger. I know it was at least one of them.
I mean, compared to Gary Cooper and Myrna Loy, I mean, Power Rangers, come on, dude.
Well, don't forget David Lynch,
Yep.
Dana Carvey. I mean, David Lynch being from Montana is that's pretty stinking cool.
I mean,
So.
Oh, it is.
Maybe that's why he's so surreal sometimes.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
I mean, I never really. I mean, he got tired of seeing a bunch of cowboys, right?
Yeah, and I believe even Joe Johnson, who is the director of Jurassic Park 3, the 2010 Wolfman, I believe even he's from Montana too.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who live here that you don't know about. And then it's really interesting. Montana's a really interesting place because in Hollywood, there's this thing that's jokingly referred to as kind of like, well, I'm not going to say what the group name is because I don't want anybody looking it up. But it's basically all Montana people who work in Hollywood. And it's kind of a little secret network. And actually, some of those people have helped us out with this film.
Nice.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, maybe if this movie is successful, Sonic 4 can actually finally be filmed in Montana, right, Eric?
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. And so Matt, so what was your experience like being a part of this film?
It was incredible from day one, and it's actually something that I've reflected on a couple interviews that I've done recently, and it all started with Brandon and what I could in terms of filling that role with his backstory, because I know that he put a lot of his struggles into the piece, and a lot of the two worlds that he knows very well in California and in Montana into it. And so I just graciously just loved the beginnings of this process and getting on these Zooms just like we're doing right now and going scene by scene and really just trying to understand what I could do with Brandon's story and the scenes and just make sure that I was doing justice to all of them. They were really, really good times starting out, and it really did. It's like Brandon said, it just kept building and building. More and more people signed on, and I think even as I was driving into Montana, I just had this feeling that this was going to be a family. This was going to be a film of people that knew that it was a story that was bigger than all of us, and we would tell it, and we would tell it proudly. And that's why we're on podcast interviews like this, because it's a word of mouth film. It's you tell two of your friends to tell two of your friends, because we need films like this, and it's a film that I've always dreamed of being a part of.
Yeah, well, hey, and I mean, there is that saying that dreams definitely can. I mean, dreams can certainly become reality. And as far as the whole thing about trials goes, I mean, every single one of us goes through trials in life. I mean, it may not be the exact same trial as everyone else. And sadly, a lot of people will use that as an argument, saying that, oh, you don't know how it's like to face trials. But all of us do in more ways than one. But, life is like a boxing ring. You will get knocked down. But what matters is that you get up.
Rocky.
There you go.
Exactly.
And by the way,
Yeah.
You're talking to an Italian here. You know I'm going to know that one.
and by the way,
That's right.
speaking of dreams, if this happens to, well, the season's kind of over right now, but let's say 2026, it actually gets nominated. What are all your speeches?
Amazing question.
Because
Well,
it's okay. It's okay because I'm the best nothing.
okay, good. Well, first of all, I would say I would have to say this. We don't have, what is it? I think it's a minimum of $25 million to promote a film, market it through the Academy Awards season. So we definitely don't have that kind of cash. Best I think we could hope for would be like a Independent Spirit Award or something to that effect. But hey, if that happened, it would basically be thanks to the team, because not every person put something into this film that made the film what it is. Like every single person. I mean, I know Tosh hasn't got a chance to speak yet because she's so sweet. She won't jump in on top of us. All of us that talk too much. But like, you see some of these scenes and you watch what the actors do and it's really apparent. But what you don't see is things that like craft services did, or, that, the DP, breaking into a food truck to get the shot because nobody was around. I mean, people just went beyond the Call of Duty constantly. We had people who were investors and sponsors that had us over to dinner and were making us dinner and bringing us all together. And, the bar where they let us shoot for nothing, pennies, and helped us through the whole process and made time for us and made accommodations for us. And it just, that's because that's what it is. It's I may have helmed it, but by helming it, all I did was let everybody do what they did best.
Yeah.
Well, Natasha, since you haven't really talked, why don't you say what's your speech?
Well, so kind of tying both together, the collaboration that Matt mentioned from the start of this felt so special. And I really do believe one always starts with the story. And receiving the script in my inbox was, from the beginning, you get, if you're fortunate enough as an actor, you get multiple auditions. And this was March of 2021. And I remember what stood out to me was, number one, that Brandon had such a claim as a filmmaker, but I had never known who he was. And he's in Montana. And that we were able, as actors receiving this audition, that we could read the script. That's such a gift in and of itself, just to audition. And so right away, knowing that it was, after reading it and knowing that it was an open story, or a story open for us to interpret and invest in from the beginning, was really special. And it was just, there was just this energy around it. I remember really relating to Rebecca, and then you go into, of course, I was cast, which was so special. And it was one of those roles that you just know that is going to stay with you for a long time. Speaking of dreams, I've always dreamed of doing a film that would be released in Montana, but did I ever dream that it would be so parallel to my own life, playing an actress from LA, making my first film in Montana, getting to film in Montana and meet all these people, Matt and Brandon, and build this family that we're talking about. I spent a month in Polson, and it was miraculous just being able to be around all these artists. And you know what? It wasn't, not one of us had even spoken of an award. It was always just day to day. It was always came down to the art, always came down to the work. And Brandon, when we would workshop scenes on Zoom or in person, I remember something really unique about Brandon is his flexibility to me and his openness. He would say, "This is our story. This isn't my," and we're like, "No, Brandon, you're the writer." He's like, "But this is our story." And, it was like watching, even being on set, it was like watching a painter. I say flexibility because, this as being actors in front of the camera or like behind the scenes, you might plan a scene and have the daylight you need and have the horse that you need or the tools and Thank God we didn't have to shoot with horses in this one, but I'm just giving an example of the tools you need. And Brandon was like a painter. If, you know, somebody threw out like the chisel, he's like, all right, well, what do we got? Crayons? We'll use that. You know, he just, nothing stopped him. And to be led in a cast, that was just really, really special.
Yeah, and I mean, when you play a character that is so much like you, you know, it makes it a lot more relatable. And I also feel like that it makes it easier to portray said character.
Sure. Yeah.
It all starts with the collaboration too. I mean, it's like I just because you're on the interview today, Tasha, it's like we went to coffee and we sat down for 2 hours and just talked about our scene together. You don't see actors do that. So while, you know, we say that it was really a story that was bigger than ourselves. Well, I mean, Brandon laid the groundwork for that, and he allowed people like us to like really, really dive deep into every scene that we had together, because I just feel like for us, like we just felt the importance of this story in a way that you don't necessarily feel in really many, like in some acting jobs, like in some films, like you don't feel the story pulling at your heartstrings in the ways that Brandon's did. And so I really do. Like we recorded do you remember like when we recorded our little session at the coffee shop and we talked through everything? And, you know, it's like, it just feels like it was yesterday, but like, I think about those times, and like, those are rare, beautiful times that you don't have in many films where like actors are getting together, you know, just to talk through a scene for like 2 hours. Who does that? Well, I mean, it happened in this film, and that's just because Brandon created the ecosystem where that was even possible.
Totally agree. Well said, Matt.
It really sounds like it's kind of one of those heartfelt movies that just not to bash Hollywood, just so people in the comments, you know, stop, cool it. It sounds like it's just something that they don't make anymore. You know, like one of those just heartwarming, you know, as Michael Eisner would say, the singles and doubles movies. You know, ones that, you know, we make a single to get a double, hopefully. So, because hopefully it makes the money that it needs to make. So,
yeah. Well, I think part of that was, and again, that was everybody that was involved. You know, the producers were a big part of that too, in setting up that culture. One of the things that was really important to me was to create a culture where it was everybody felt like they were important to this film, because they were. And when everybody feels like that, and they truly they understand that what they do really does matter, then they take ownership of it. I mean, you know, just to pick on Matt and Tasha here while we're here, I said in an interview the other day, Matt spent a year with like an acting coach so he could have somebody to run lines against. So he could make sure that every bit of his inflection, everything was correct. You know, he hired a nutritionist, for the love of God. I mean, like, just so he could be the right type of person for the role. You know, Tasha
lost 25 pounds for it. Yeah.
Wow.
I did.
Talk about dedication.
I did. Well, I felt like at a certain point, like I like to lift weights, and it's like I felt like I needed to lean out for the character. Like
I'm just glad he didn't take the Christian Bale method.
Yeah.
No, I did it healthy way. Actually, I should have knowingly gotten in touch with you, Tasha, because you're world-renowned, like fit, like queen, and I just like I should have just hired you.
Oh well, next time. Yeah.
I know.
What was it? I think to lose all that weight for the machinist, he had a diet of tuna, apple skins, and cigarettes to lose all that weight.
Yeah.
And then gained the weight.
I did it a healthy way. I did it 5 small meals, and kitchen and cardio was my main thing, because I needed to lose muscle.
And then to gain the weight for Batman, he ate cheeseburgers and worked out. So.
Oh wow.
Jeez Louise.
It's a weird thing, but you want to feel like you're in your body, you know? No, go ahead.
Things we could do when we're in our early 20s, in our late 20s that we can't do now, you know? And I say,
you know,
who's that old, but I don't know if I could do that, because I like to eat. So
we all do.
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that was a big part of it, was, you know, we spent time together. We spent time together on the weekends.
Yeah.
You know, first week of wrap, we all went out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't go home.
Yeah.
Miss
We didn't
those
go to our
times.
hotel rooms and escape. We all hung out. I mean, like the 2 days before, we were 1 or 2 days before the shoot, we were all together and we were all there. And
Mhm.
and you know, Matt came out and we shot some test footage and stuff like that. And we,
So
you
fun.
know, and we continually had a good time of it. And there was a lot of different people on the set, you know, but the one thing we all had in common was that we wanted to make this film the best we could, and everybody put into it. And that's, again, you know, Tasha and Kaylee and Matt were doing Zoom rehearsals with me. I mean, man, Tasha and Kaylee did one where I was bawling at the end. Well, we were all bawling at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
You softies.
Yeah, I mean, it was so good. And it's when people pour into something, it gives you that little extra. And if they don't, then yeah, you get the 1-2 kind of treatment, you know, where you've got to make 2 to make 1 work. But when people really pour into it, then you don't. And that was true on the post-production side as well. You know, the guys that did the score on this, they ghostwrite scores, and they've ghostwritten some huge movies. I mean, huge movies. And they're friends of mine, and you know, I get of course I get the friend discount, but also also they just did us right. The score is beautiful, you know. So everything you go into on this picture, it was because somebody gave something to it, whether it was Graham or Michelle or Matt or Andrew or Tosh or Kaylee or William or whoever. Yeah, it was amazing.
Well, it sounds like true verisimilitude.
Oh yeah, certainly. And so when the film is released, and then and then the public then can watch the movie, what do all of you hope that the audience is going to get out of it?
I'll start. Yeah, no, we're probably going to say very similar things. You start, ladies first.
Well, like Brandon mentioned before, to me, about the opposing sides of the two main characters, Matt's Fabian and Graham McTavish's John. And it's so much in our culture these days, it's either, like Brandon said, you're all in and you agree with someone, or you hate somebody. And it's just, that's just not the truth. So I hope by people watching and experiencing this film, it allows them to open up their minds and their hearts about how others may not live the life that you do on a day-to-day basis, or have the same beliefs or, experiences, but how can you relate and how can you help each other out when life seems impossible?
Yeah.
Beautifully said. I mean, it's a conversation piece, and we need it more now than ever in our society. I think Brandon wrote it bravely in that he didn't fall into probably many of the writer traps that, I wouldn't say like a lot of Hollywood movies, not necessarily, but any movies do, leaning into kind of the dramatic points of it. And having a collaborator in Graham was very special to me, because he allowed the conversation to be had where we could tell it organically and truthfully, but not ever make it feel melodramatic. And it's it is a story of two different people from two different worlds that wouldn't normally be put in the same room together. And we are just on energy levels alone completely different. And it's one thing that I struggled with as an actor, primarily in this role, is that I felt this role really big. I tried to shun away from that because I knew it was a film, but I felt it really big, and I felt like I was the outsider coming in, and I was up against the clock, and I had a movie to make, and Tasha's my lead actress, and I want something really big for her, and there are all these really, really big feelings that I'm feeling, and John Graham is just stoic. He's just doing his job. He's just living his legacy, but he's trying to keep that legacy alive. And so we really need each other. And there's a picture. It's honestly one of my favorite pictures, and there's so many great ones that we have on set together that I'm sure we'll share, but it's of Brandon, me, David, the real rancher, and Graham, and we're just sitting in front of the cattle pit there, and it really just, that's the moment where I really knew how big this film was, and I really knew how badly it needed to be told and how badly it needed to be seen and felt by people, because the reality is that there is always more that can connect us than can ever divide us, but we have to let each other in. And it's not that we have to agree on everything, and I think Brandon was very clear on that when he wrote that, and Graham and I had many conversations. It's like, we're not going to skip off in the sunset together, like we are from two different worlds, but if we can find a way past like the initial like cancellation of each other where we're just butting heads and just try to let each other in, I still believe in this world that respect is the highest form of love, and that's something that we really delved into when we told the story together.
Yeah, I think Graham. I like what, I can't use it as my words because Graham said, but he said something to the effect that was very similar to that. That was, the difference in this movie is that it doesn't paint somebody as right and somebody as wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It just says, here are these two men, they have differences and they get along. And I know it sounds overly simplistic, but it seems almost impossible in our world today. You don't get the chance to have a difference of opinion with somebody and then have a dialogue with them. It's, well, you have a different opinion than me, shut up. And that's not what this movie does. This movie is, we're different, we got to get through this, so let's figure out how we get through this.
It sounds to me like a movie that's based on, basically, I would even say like Martin Luther King, I have a dream today. That whole speech, where men, women, and children could just come together no matter what, and
yeah,
we need that sort of now, especially because Eric, sorry, buddy, breaking your rule or no controversial topics, but it's like if you're a difference of religion in somebody, it's like you punch their mother, in front of them. It's like, dude, we in this country, we have a right to freedom of religion or freedom of
We do
anything. Whatever, as we're all, it sounds like a true American movie,
yeah.
Based on
But I think with that comes, it's not only just respecting someone's right to speak, but also respecting the right to listen properly.
Yeah.
A lot of times people say, well, yeah, say what you're going to say, but they don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's got two sides. And when people do speak and when people do respectfully listen, then that makes a difference. Then you have dialogue.
Exactly.
When people just speak, there's no dialogue. You don't move anything forward. And so I think that's what the difference here is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's two men in this instance making a decision to do that. And there are some tough things in the film. There need to be,
Mm-hmm.
but
all drama.
They make their way through it.
Yeah, and well,
All said.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that's just the whole thing, that if the world's not going to be a great place if everyone agrees on everything, it's going to be
exactly,
because Eric, I mean, I'm sure that you can say, like, there's you have friends of yours that you disagree with, but are you don't sit there and say, we can't be friends anymore because of blankety blank, I mean, sure, we all have friends like that. So
no, and I mean, ultimately, if you really do love that person for who they are, and if you really do respect them, well, then ultimately you not having the same viewpoint should not be something that should just ruin your entire relationship with said person.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening a lot these days, and that kind of needs to end. And that's the whole, I mean, really, that's the big message behind the movie is.
Well, in hindsight,
can we talk?
Sounds like the message of the movie is everyone has an asshole.
Yeah, and they all stink.
Yep.
just like opinions. So, and that was, who was that? PJ O'Rourke. You know, everybody's, you know, opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got them, and they all stink. But the thing is with it is that, yeah, it's not just a one-sided thing, and it's not that somebody's right and somebody's wrong. We are going to have differences, and we should have differences. The differences make us good. There were differences of opinion on set. There were differences, and there was one time there was a conversation that got heated, and I just walked up to some of the crew members. I said, no more political discussions on set if we can't do it peacefully. And that was it. And they're like, okay, fair enough. They stopped. No hard feelings. Everybody stopped. We moved on. We got the next shot. Everything was good. That was fine. That was what it had to be.
Mhm.
And other than that, I think the biggest argument was me getting into an argument with the DP about quantum mechanics. But other than that, I think we were all good.
It sounds like there's a story.
That was
there.
it.
No, I'm just learning about this now, but I'm picturing AJ and you talking.
Totally.
Very
Yeah.
entertaining.
So it sounds like there's a story there. Do we want to elaborate on?
No, it wasn't even that big a deal, but I remember it was something stupid. Like, I felt I had to try to correct AJ on superposition in quantum mechanics while we were in a car driving to location for some reason, and I was just being a jerk. And he because he had brought it up, and so it was silly. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay,
Here's the thing, but again, I think because of the film, the way the film was shot, and the attitude of the people involved, it lended to that ultimate conclusion of the film itself. You know, they say, you know, it's very meta or whatever, but it really was. It was a film within a film, but the filmmaking process itself lended to how the film turned out. I do not think that if we had been contentious, we would have had the same vibe on that film. Even though we did disagree on things, there were things we disagreed on. There were a couple things where it was like location. Well, somebody wanted this, somebody wanted that. Sometimes it was actors. You know, where I just stepped in and said, no, that's the actor I want, period. And that was it. And everybody said, see, then we're going that direction. And it's okay to have differences because I think they lend to what happens. But no, there was no conflict that ever got out of hand.
Well, I mean, I've had friends that have disagreed with me, and you know, it's always interesting to hear their viewpoints. Like, why do you believe this? You know, or why do I? Maybe you could change my opinion. You know, who knows?
Yeah.
But you have to be intelligent about it. Don't sit there and insult me about it. You know, because that's not
Exactly.
good. You know, and this and that's what I've heard about this movie too. Is that, you know, because, you know, a fellow friend of the show, and you know, Melanie was promoting the movie too. You know.
Yep.
And I would like, I want to see it. I mean, hopefully, I guess there's the next question. What is it going to be on Amazon, Tubi? Where are we looking for?
Well, right now there are absolutely no plans to put it online. Right now, the first place you can see it is over 40 theaters in the United States starting on Friday.
Awesome.
So if you're in Montana, Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, you have your best, Michigan, you have your best shots of seeing it.
Can I jump in? I
Yeah,
would love to invite you all. I know, Eric, you're in Billings. Ty, I'm not sure where you are. And Matt, I know you'll be promoting maybe in New York. But if you can, the Washoe Theater in Anaconda on the 10th is going to be a cool place to be.
Come. Well, hopefully it comes to Kansas soon. So.
Oh, yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think closest to Kansas right now is Virginia, so not very close.
Well,
but
Colorado.
Oh, Colorado, yeah. Colorado.
Yeah. Although
and then
darn it, I have to go to Salt Lake.
Yeah. Well, we have some pending expansion plans too. So there's a number of theater chains. I don't want to say which, but there's a number of theater chains that have expressed interest in expansion on it. So if it does well the opening week, or weekend especially, they will pick it up and expand on it, and that would be everywhere
All right.
in the
Awesome.
United
Well,
States.
well, awesome. I will, if I happen to see the movie, that when we go to movie night, I'll sit there and say, I want to see Someone in Montana, because I have to do it now because I promoted it. So
Yes.
Exactly.
And can I just say, like, I think it's such a beautiful thing that it is coming to theaters. There aren't a lot of movies that come to theaters anymore. And this is a conversation piece. And I say, all the time, this is an opportunity for, people to come together in person like we used to, right? And have those little 2-minute conversations after seeing a moving film, and telling their friends to tell their friends to come back to the theater. And we are an indie that could. And we don't have the multi-million-dollar marketing budget, but what we do have is our voices, and that's why we're on our podcast, like this one today, to promote it and to get the word out.
Matter of fact, I believe that when John Carpenter's Halloween was first released, I believe that release also was a word of mouth thing, and and then the rest is history. And now John Carpenter's Halloween it now has become like one of the biggest horror movies ever made. So if it wasn't for Halloween, there would be no Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street and all of those other films. So
well, there's been so many movies that were independent movies that changed the foundation, not even of Hollywood, but the movie industry. I mean, Rocky was an independent movie. Nobody believed in it, really. No, because Sylvester Stallone stuck to his guns, said, I have to star in the movie, to the point where they only spent $1 million on Rocky. And then look where it started. Star Wars was an independent movie, technically. 10 minutes, it had financial backing, but nobody believed in it, and John Carpenter's The Thing was, I don't really want to use the term bottom of the apple barrel, but, lack of a better phrase, independent movie. So there's been so many movies that have changed the trajectory of the movie industry, and it's been a long time since we've actually had something like that. Like what? Probably.
Well, Parasite's probably been the most recent example of something like that, where it's a truly independent film that was, pulled up. And I think they were outside of the A24 fold before A24 picked them up. But it's tough because this year, since the pandemic, sorry for using that word, I know it's a bad word on podcasts. But since the P word,
I didn't hear anything. Did you, Eric?
Yeah.
Wait, what? Huh? Sorry?
Yeah. But since then,
my earbud clicked out for a second.
Hollywood's been relying mostly on tent poles, and so have theaters. And so when that came back into when people started really coming back to theaters, they banked everything on tent poles, the big Marvel films and things like that. And so independents have kind of gotten thrown by the wayside a little bit since then. I will say we debuted this at Rocky Mountain National Association of Theater Owners annual conference in Salt Lake City, Utah in September. And the feedback we got was tremendous. I mean, theater owners went to their buyers and said, we want this movie. So the theater owners are backing us. The theater owners are really been on our side. We've got theaters who don't do a lot of independent films that are taking this film because they believe in the film. And so it's really an uplifting kind of story from that standpoint. And we're doing our darndest to make sure that it can get out there and do what it needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, even look at one movie that made not really talked about much anymore, but it had a cultural phenomenon. Billy Jack was an independent movie.
Yeah.
And Tom McLaughlin self-promoted that movie, going to every town in the United States just to get his movie out there. Look where it became. So, it just takes a lot of hard work, because self-promotion's the greatest promotion. So
Yeah. And these days it's easy, and honestly, it's easier to make a film with the advent of digital and these other things and mediums. So there's a lot of places you can put a film. It's tougher to break through all the noise. And that's one reason that we're not debuting on the coasts. we're debuting in Middle America where we could properly market this thing directly, and then we'll expand to more theaters, hopefully.
Yes. Well, I mean, I think that in some ways, the Midwest, I don't really want to use the term underrepresented, but like it's always California or New York, that we have the Midwest in America too. So, it doesn't, and, I think that, there needs to be a movie capital for the Midwest too. And maybe, I know Kevin Costner has been promoting that for Montana too. So who knows?
Yeah. See what happens.
It is underrepresented. I mean, the day that we did our screening up in Montana, as just walking around Main Street getting a couple of gifts for my wife, and there were people that were coming up to me, and it was the same thing over and over again. It was, thank you so much for like being a part of a film that was telling like our story, a story that was very meaningful to them. A place that they love, a place that they've raised their families. So yes, you're right. Like the Midwest and Middle America is underrepresented, and a big thing that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, hey, I'm a part of the Midwest too. I'm right in the heartland, so.
Yeah. No, I mean this film for me like has actually kind of landed on such a deep level where I feel like it's kind of become a part of who I am in many ways, and it's perpetuated me to kind of inhibit that and start my own production company and wanting to do my own feature film. And in the same way as Fabian, like, trying to find these little pockets of the country that don't have voices and to tell their voices, because I feel.
So you could do somewhere in Kansas.
Somewhere in Montana too, but this time it's Kansas.
Yeah. Sequel.
Oh yeah,
well, Graham's already written that. Yeah, that's right. I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, they already came up with 10 different ideas for somewhere in Montana too. But but honestly, it's funny. It's not because somebody wanted to have a sequel, but just because everybody wanted to work together again.
Mm-hmm.
Spin-off.
Yeah. And it was a lot of fun. We did. I can't remember. Were you at ADR, Tasha, in LA?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you were, Matt. And it was fun. We set up ADR at our mix facility there in Burbank, and I think Michelle came in first, and then Jonathan or Matt or Tasha, I can't remember, but anyway, and everybody was coming in, and nobody left. And after about 3 hours, we were taking a break. Everybody was in.
Froze for a bit.
Sorry, I think my internet went out. Can you guys hear me again?
Yes.
Damn technical difficulty.
Okay, sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right.
Yeah,
the internet makes
Montana
you look so
internet.
professional sometimes.
Anyway, we were doing the ADR session, and we were about 3 hours into it. Everybody was in the lobby getting snacks and chatting and everything. And the engineer calls me over. He says, "What the heck did you do, man?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, your lead actress, who I've seen in like a million things, got here like 3 hours ago. She hasn't left. Then every person who's come has just hung out." And this ADR stage is different. So this ADR stage, what they would do is they didn't have a booth or anything. They would just do it right next to the mix console, and they would like record the lines for the voice, the lines that we were fixing. And everybody was just sitting on the stage cheering everybody on, and it was hilarious. And he's like, "I've never seen this before. This is weird. It's like you guys like each other." And then he was just kind of tripped out by the whole thing. And then the owner called me a couple days later, and he said, "Dude, I heard you had the best ADR session ever." And I said, "Oh, it's just us hanging out."
Yeah.
And and he was just it was funny. But that's how it was, We really all genuinely liked hanging out with each other. When we did the Montana for a cast and crew, we not only we had all 6 screens at their little multiplex downtown that were taken up. We had everybody, we had people in every one of their theaters. Not only that, we shut down Main Street, and then the cast and crew stuck around for like 3 days. I mean, we just hung out.
Yeah.
So it was a great
Beautiful
thing.
times. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like it was. You don't hear about sets like that. Usually it's the TMZ or certainly not news.
Yeah.
Headlines on sets. You don't hear stuff like that. I want to hear sets about like they rescued a cat from a tree. It's a super,
Right.
sounds like classic Superman Americana sort of set.
Well, I think that comes from you have to set that tone on the set. You decide what kind of a set it's going to be. If you're going to be dictatorial and screaming and stress everybody out, then that's the tone that you're going to set.
Do you want to? I guess it goes back to: do you want to be John Ford or Eric von Stroheim? So start just maybe have a few laughs, curse a little, but like John Ford. Or do you want to just sit there and yell and scream at people? I mean, Eric, you want to be a director? What's the best? Which set do you want to have?
Well, I mean, I definitely would want to have a set that wouldn't be as frustrating as it was with Jaws. And I mean, it's ironic because Jaws is one of my top favorite films of all time. But yeah, I heard that the making of that movie was a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah. And you hear a lot about that, and you hear about interesting things like, directors manipulating actors and all these other things. And, there's really no reason for it. And I love that old story. I'm not going to say it again, but it's, it was about Dustin Hoffman getting drunk coming to set and, I think it was Sir John Gielgud said, my boy, why don't you try acting instead of getting drunk? Just act like you're drunk. Essentially
Laurence
what it
Olivier.
boiled down to. Laurence Olivier, thank you. And
my dear boy, why don't you try acting?
Yes. And I think you can create that. You obviously can create that, but I've been on a lot of different sets, and I think Clint Eastwood has set the stage for like the optimal standard in filmmaking, to be perfectly honest, because he knows what he wants. He goes out, he gets it, and he sets things up so that the focus is on the actors at the time. And I think that's what you need to do. I think that's really important. I think the actors need to be able to know that they're in control of their own situation at that time when they're on set. And it's so funny because sometimes, they're obviously not completely in control. There were probably 3 times when Matt said, "Don't we need another take?" I'd be like, "No, Matt, we don't need another take." And he'd get frustrated at me, and I'd be like, "No, I know what we got, and we're good." And it's okay, and I think that's fine. But yeah, I think allowing the actors to have room to do what they do. I mean, set everything else up. But also, I want to say this: the actors were prepared. Every single one of them came prepared. Every single one of them. They were on, they were ready, they knew everything. We may have had... Oh, shoot. Sorry, did my internet go out again?
Yeah, but you're back. We can hear you.
You're back.
Okay, good.
For now.
For now, yeah.
Oh
no. I guess we jinxed it. We jinxed it.
Do I need to go to the damn corner now? Because I think I was going to jinx it.
I'm so sorry. I should probably stop talking after this just so I can make sure I've got everything done. But
all right.
But what I was saying is all the actors were very well prepared. Mm-hmm. We probably only had a handful of flubbed lines in the entire film. Like, I could go back and use almost every take of the film because the actors were 100% prepared. They were rehearsed. They worked together. We all worked together. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was an ideal experience for a director. So, I mean, I don't want to be... It was as much... Again, it was what every single person brought to the process.
And, I guess, I've noticed here too, that Natasha and especially your friend Melanie, you two have a very old Hollywood look. So and
Yeah.
So does Fabian. He just the actor who plays Fabian here. He just needs to get his maybe a little Clark Gable mustache, right?
I can't grow any facial hair. It's not happening.
Well, just
I've outgrown that already.
pencil one, right? Just this glue on mustache, right? Makeup.
Well, that is funny. That is something that I would say was so funny about the actors in the film, because especially the actresses, because I remember looking at the actresses and going, they are all very pretty women. And then you see them all in real life and you're like, oh my God, they're way too gorgeous. How are we going to do this? Like, they're like so gorgeous, like every single one of them. And, but it's okay because in the context of the film, it does work. And
I don't know, maybe
actors, you get used to that watching TV and film, right?
I don't know, Eric, is that just Montana? Do they just have beautiful women or what?
Yeah, and and as far as Matt's thing about growing facial hair, and then in that case, it sounds like that I can't mustache you a question.
I think I've outgrown that. Yeah, it doesn't work for me.
It's okay. Not everybody can be as awesome as me.
Yeah, I could never pull that off. No.
So,
But yeah, it also sounds like it's not hairy funny.
Oh gosh, we devolved into puns. It might be time to call it.
well, it's okay. Fellow friend of the show said he was punderful. So
that's fantastic.
So anyway,
I was gonna go back and talk really quickly about like just kind of that ecosystem that started with Brandon, even though he takes little credit for it. But it really, like, our crew was phenomenal on this project. Like, our crew really sacrificed a lot of time and energy, and Brandon, talked to me the last day on set, and he just really allowed everybody to be the master of their own domain, and what he said to me really resonated with me that day, and kind of carries me forward towards my next project. And when I rapped specifically, and I'm sure Tasha would say the exact same thing, it's like all of the energy that the crew and the cast and everybody in the production gave us, it was this wonderful feeling of feeling like we were just giving it right back to the project and to the film. And I think that this is such an intimate film in many ways, that I feel like we really needed that ecosystem to exist for the film to resonate like it did on screen. And I just remember the first time seeing it and just being so absolutely just proud of everybody for the courage it took, but it really did. It started with the foundation that you started, Brandon, and it really resonated out of that with the crew and everybody, because we just really, really did become a family, and that's why this film's so special to me and always will be.
Yeah, and I just want to, well said, Matt. And I just want to throw in, we've been talking about film and family, and give a shout out to Brandon's family. Like, there were literally, Judy was the costume.
Judy,
beautiful
Judy.
wife. Anya jumped in as second AD.
Anya,
Bella
yeah.
was there. Logan had, did locations like,
Yep.
Joe's wife, Michelle, Eden's mother and daughter, and Brock. Like, everybody was so invested. There were literal. So I think that's something that made, going back to, again, this image of Hollywood and making movies, but in Montana, what makes it so special is you have literal family, and then you become, we became family. So from start to finish, that was like a treasure. That was like hitting the lottery to me.
Amen. Me too.
So wow. Yeah, so question like for Tashia. So like with you and your friendship with Melanie Wint, did you two meet on set of like a past film project that you two did, or how did you two meet all in all?
We met on this film, actually. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I remember being in the Quatucknuck, and I remember Brandon, you were excited about everybody, Brandon, but we were like Matt and I had gotten there earlier, because just the way the structure, the shot list was set up. And so, each day somebody new is coming in, and you're always excited, like who's, I remember Michelle arriving, and and Brandon's like, oh, and we're like paused and we're like, wait, who's playing the fangirl? That was the name of the character. And he's like, I've got the perfect person. I've worked with her before. I love her. You guys are gonna love her. And so I remember seeing her walk into the Quintetechnic, and she just has such a fun energy. And Melanie is one of the hardest working people I've ever met. But we met there, and then have been blessed to work together now twice, I think. Anyway, but that's how we met. Yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then I had Melanie on another project, a previous feature called Nexus of Evil, where she played one of the leads. It was kind of a ensemble cast, and she was one of the leads on that. And she did a great job. And so I thought, well, here's a part that'd be perfect for her to jump in on. She that movie, we released that in theaters, in a few theaters in Montana for over a couple of Halloweens, and it's not on video or online or anything, but yeah, so that's where she came from there, and that's how that started. And then she's also in a couple movies that our company Novavento had distributed. So
Well,
awesome.
Maybe there's a future, like, one of the like Road 2 movies or something like that for Melanie and Natasha to do. Just a.
Yeah, I'd love to work with any and all of you. So
there you go. Well,
send me the script.
Ditto.
So I guess question for all three of you: do all of you have a favorite genre of film?
Drama for me.
no,
the Hollywood epic.
I like fantasy.
yeah, I mean, I like comedies are my favorite, honestly, but like, my favorite films are pretty varied. So for me, it's more about the story than it is about the genre, I guess.
Yeah, that's
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
But I'll watch Lord of the Rings 10 times over and over again.
Extended cut too, right?
Yeah, I have.
I mean,
so
hey,
my family did sit and watch the whole extended version of Lord of the Rings in one day once. So
wow,
in one day.
In one day,
That's
I think it was
amazing.
18 hours.
Talk about commitment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as someone who has done that before, I did it for the 20th anniversary. Sadly, that person I did it with, there was some. They want something to do with me, but it was fun. Hey, no, it was fun. I choose to.
Well, maybe you shouldn't have watched an 18-hour version of Lord of the Rings with them. Maybe next time.
Maybe that was it.
So.
But no, I mean, I had fun doing it. And everything. That's always fun watching that. And Eric, maybe we could do that. That would be a test for us, right?
That I will. And and I'm just speaking on the behalf of me. Ever since I saw the South Park parody of Lord of the Rings, I just can't take it seriously anymore. I don't know if any of you have seen the South Park parody of it, but yeah, it was, I mean, at least in my own opinion, I think that is the funniest episode yet. It was funny.
Well, so
check it out.
Anyway, I will say this, if so as we wrap this up, because we could, like I said, we could go for the full Rogan, but an hour is a good length. Be sure to follow them on their Instagrams. It's all down below there.
Thank you.
And
of course.
We also, if you really want to help out with me and Eric, we have merch at poppoptees.com. We are still working on overseas stuff, but luckily, if you want to, we have in the USA right now for merch, and if you ever want to, just go to poppoptees.com, go to me or Eric for merchandise. Even if you really want it, our merch guy says he can put it on. So if you so really inquire, you can have Vierthaler Studios underwear. or Junebug Films underwear. We don't have that, but if you really want that, awesome, right?
It
Eric?
can be done.
Dreams do come true.
That's right.
I don't know about seeing my logo on somebody's underwear, but hey, if the check clears, I'm good.
Exactly. I mean, money talks, and I guess that if Brandon ever
Bullshit
felt
walk.
inclined, to do so,
Well,
I mean, I guess that he could make somewhere in Montana underwear if he wanted to.
that'd be great merchandising, right? All
That
right.
it would.
So,
But yeah, so besides somewhere in Montana, do any of you have anything else upcoming that you would want my audience to be aware of?
Yeah, I don't know when it's released, but I worked with Brandon on another film, Where the Wind Blows. Do we know when that's coming out, Brandon?
I don't know. I was
Okay.
kind of more of a production producer on that
Yeah.
one, so I've been out of the loop on it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I've got a couple movies I'm shooting here in the spring, but nothing to announce yet. So,
All right,
but,
cool.
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to shoot those outside of Montana. So,
And
okay.
oh yeah, so just out of curiosity, do you have to shoot outside of Montana for tax reasons or feasibility or what?
Tax credits, yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks. But hey, I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you for having us on, Eric.
Yeah.
That was
Thank you so much.
appreciate it.
Certainly.
Okay.